It's Monday, the 27th of October, 2025. Live and direct from Radio Park Building here at SABC HQ in Auckland Park in Johannesburg. You're listening to SAFM. On the traditional radio airwaves, we are on 104 to 107 nationwide. But as you know, we are also live on all our digital platforms. That is SAFM Radio on YouTube, and that's our YouTube channel. But we are also safm.co.za. That's our website. You can also listen live there. But of course, you can also hear us by connecting with us on at SAFM on Facebook as well as on X. Welcome to it, the Monday edition of the Morning Brief. Among some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours. 2 years and 8 months after it wrote our name on its bad books, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, finally gives the nod for South Africa to exit the grey list. South Africa has officially been removed from the Financial Action Task Force's grey list, a global watch list for countries with strategic deficiencies in combating money laundering and terrorist financing. The decision marks a significant step forward for Africa's most industrialized economy, signaling renewed confidence from global markets and investors. We hope that will be the case. The move comes after the country implemented sweeping financial reforms to strengthen its anti money laundering framework and improve the transparency of its financial system. So it's a lot to take in. We do need to unpack what was the implication of being on that grey list and what does it mean for us now that we are out and our name has been nicely erased. They took an erase and erased our name nicely. Or Tipex, was it? I don't know. Whatever they used to remove our name from the grey list. Ishmael Momoniat, the advisor to National Treasury, will come through and explain all of that for us, the implications of being off the grey list and how we sustain the momentum, because those changes that we needed to do were good for us to present to FATF, but actually there's a case to be made for we needed to do all of this for ourselves, right? To tighten where there were some deficiencies, just for our own sake as well. So Ishmael Momoniat, advisor at National Treasury, will be my guest at the top of 7 a.m. It's a bit of a thorny issue, how to properly grapple with the fact of an allegation of corruption or bribery being made against a judicial officer without unduly giving credence to unsubstantiated claims and speculation that risks damaging the credibility of the judiciary. So it's about that fine balancing act, ventilating the fact of an allegation being made and the public interest therein, but at the same time without giving undue credence to unsubstantiated claims. How do you strike that balance? How should we deal with the allegations made, for example, at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry against an acting judge president and a magistrate? Well, lots of divergent views on that question, but for its part, the National Association of Democratic Lawyers, NADEL, has issued a strong statement reaffirming its unwavering commitment to the independence, integrity, and accountability of the country's judiciary. They've been responding, of course, to recent unsubstantiated allegations against members of the judiciary, including acting Judge President Ledwaba. Nadel emphasizes that while judicial officers must remain accountable, any claims of misconduct must be handled through proper, fair, and evidence based processes. At about 20 past 7, I'll be in conversation with Machini Mtloung, who is the spokesperson of Nadel, who will come through and just outline how they are grappling with these allegations that we are seeing ventilated in such a public manner without being tested at this particular point and any evidence being presented at this point. It's part of the criminal justice system that grinds quietly away from our prying eyes, and you and I hardly ever think about it. The effort it takes to get fugitives from the law back to this country to face justice. Only occasionally, when a high profile case of extradition hits the headlines, do we get a glimpse of how the system actually works. Well, how the system works has got the NPA a bit concerned. The National Prosecuting Authority is warning that a legal loophole in the country's extradition law might let at least 59 suspects, including the alleged killers of rapper aka slipped through the cracks. At the center of it all is what's now become known as the Cholota strategy, named after former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's former aide, who recently won her freedom on a technicality. The NPA says the precedent set in that case and another involving fugitive Jonathan Schultz are now being used by suspects across the world to avoid facing trial in South Africa. The issue has now reached the Constitutional Court, where the NPA hopes to overturn a precedent that they feel could derail dozens of high profile cases. You can think of many people that we would like to get back in the country: the Guptas, the Bushiris. We have a lot of people that we want to see coming back to the country to face justice. And the NPA says there's a bit of a loophole that needs to be tightened. So our guest at about 10 to 7 this morning will be Andre Thomas Hausen, who is a professor emeritus of international law at UNISA. Morning brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff. N. Musa is at the news desk as always. Rob Byrne has got your traffic. Zaikan watching all things sport. She didn't get the memo, by the way. We're all wearing white in studio. I don't know what script she's been reading from. Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. We've got her in studio, standing by in the next few minutes. Dowling Lechela with insights into the economy, business, and the markets throughout the 3 hours. And of course, Sipho Mantula with the Africa update at about 20 to 7. You and I, let's have a conversation throughout the 3 hours. Let's engage. Call me 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 0614 104 107. All right, let's get into it then. The first hour of the morning brief on this Monday.
It's jam-packed with pressure on the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 in the first elimination challenge as the contestants learn how to make their own jams and preserves from scratch. Who will spread the love and who will get themselves in a sticky situation? That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Don't miss your chance to shape the future. The Limpopo Investment Conference 2025, Limpopo Rising, Africa's new investment frontier. Your gateway to unparalleled opportunities from October 30 and 31st in Polokwane. Seize the groundbreaking prospects in mining, agriculture, tourism, and green energy. Connect with global visionaries and investors driving Africa's economic boom. Limpopo's wealth is waiting. Be part of the rise. Join the conversation on lic.lcxonline.co.za. Invest in Limpopo. Invest in success.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
All right, kicking us off is Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. Melissa, let's start with news coming out of the courts. Good morning to you, by the way, and happy Monday. News coming out of the courts. Tell me what's this issue between the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities versus ICASA.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The Supreme Court of Appeal has dismissed the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities appeal against ICASA, upholding a previous High Court ruling. The NCPD had challenged ICASA's 2021 disability regulations, arguing that they failed to ensure equal access to televised information for people who are deaf and hard of hearing because they required only closed captioning and not open subtitles. The organization said this discriminated against poor and elderly viewers who cannot afford caption cable devices. The SCA found that ICASA was not legally required to compel broadcasters to provide subtitles or interpreters, with Judge Faiza Catherine Sitilaule stating that while the NCPD's cause was important, such policy decisions must come from the legislator and not from the courts.
Yeah, I realized what I did there. I dribbled you a little bit.
Yes.
Started with your last story. I was
okay.
just testing.
No,
if
I'm
you're
wide
awake.
awake
I
today.
can see. All right, let's go back to where you wanted to start. Tell me about Nkosana Makate. It's also another story in the courts. Nkosana Makate versus Vodacom. another replay of that case.
Yes, so Nkosana Makate and Vodacom are set to face off in the Supreme Court of Appeal on the 18th of November over compensation for Makate's Please Call Me invention. This follows the Constitutional Court's decision to send the case back to the SCA for a new hearing after finding legal errors in its previous ruling. Makate is also contesting a nearly 13 million rand costs order against him, calling it unfair. Vodacom maintains that its 47 million rand offer is generous enough, while Makate insists he deserves 5% of PCM revenue over 18 years, an amount he estimates to be up to 110 billion rand. So we will have to watch and see how far this fight goes
Yo,
and where they land.
that's an eye-watering sum of money there. Oh, that's a lot. All right. Lastly, we're talking extraditions. As much as we want to extradite people back to South Africa, other countries want suspects from this country as well. And this gentleman, Ian Wares, is one of those. Yeah.
Yes, so former teacher and alleged pedophile Ian Waris, 86 years old, has been arrested in South Africa following a UK extradition request. He faces 90 charges for the sexual and physical abuse of 65 boys in Scotland during the 1960s and 70s. He was granted a 10,000 rand bail. Waris will return to court on the 20th of November for an extradition decision. Child rights group Women and Men Against Child Abuse have also welcomed the arrest, calling it a long overdue step towards justice for his victims. So this is also another case that we have in the past done, and we will watch closely to see how far it goes.
All right, Melissa. Thank you for that. Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, there's just one impact-based warning coming through from the South African Weather Service. It's a yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in localized flooding of susceptible roads, large amounts of small hail, and localized structural damage. That is expected along the escarpment of Mpumalanga and Limpopo, as well as the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 29. Johannesburg, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 27. Vereeniging, same conditions, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 27. Same conditions in Bombela, cloudy with widespread afternoon showers and thunder showers, 19 to 31. Polokwane, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 20 to 30. Mahikeng, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 16 to 31. Bloemfontein, fine, 10 to 26. Kimberley, fine, 9 to 26. Uppington, fine, 11 to 27. Cape Town will be partly cloudy at first, otherwise it will be fine with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 20. George, fine, becoming partly cloudy from the evening, 9 to 21. Gqeberha, partly cloudy at first, otherwise fine, 9 to 20. East London will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 22. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 22. Richards Bay, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 18 to 24. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
All right, so there's an intriguing, if not concerning, development in the North Atlantic, among other areas of the world. The UK Defense Secretary, John All right. John Healey has issued a direct warning to Russian President Vladimir Putin. We are hunting your submarines. Healey says there's been a 30% increase in Russian naval activity near the UK waters, signaling a resurgence of Cold War era tensions in the North Atlantic. During a joint UK-German surveillance mission, Healey joined an RAF P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft, witnessing firsthand how British and NATO forces are tracking Russian submarines and surface vessels operating close to critical undersea infrastructure. Let's speak to Musa Mdunge, political analyst, who joins us now to unpack it all. Musa, good morning and thank you for your time. So it's a bit technical and perhaps it's one for the defense industry enthusiasts and fundis, but it's a concerning development, is it not? This sense by NATO and other European countries that there's an increase in Russian nuclear submarine activity around their waters.
Yes, hi, Thulasizwe. I hope you're well. To the network perspective. Um, yes, look, it is a concern. There has been an increase in Russian activity over Europe. You know that has led to, of course, the Ukraine invasion. And in fact, this is not the first time, right? So as much as it's been getting high reputation now, but it is a normal occurrence that the Russians uh, have been known to do, especially around the North Atlantic. That is where most of these submarines will be found. It is a concern, but it is not the first time, and the British have faced Russians before, very much.
And you've got now this patrol that we're talking about. It involved the UK defense minister as well as the German leadership. But also, we've been hearing from Norway as well, also concerned about Russian nuclear submarine activity around the Kola Peninsula. How is Europe approaching all of this? I mean, I know that it happens in the context of conversations about collaboration around the Ukraine situation, as well as scaling up their defense expenditure in the last few months?
Well, this has been the conversation, right? For the past year, particularly, there's a conversation among Europeans about how do we all, bring together our plans in terms of how we have a common defense strategy against not only Russia but also other potential threats. But the challenge is you have about 27 countries with different budgets, different military strategies. Even in terms of how they do naval defense, they don't seem to agree. And so it's very hard. You know, it's different for the United States, for example. This is one country that is able to manage its defense, China. The Europeans are a bit different. And as much as, they seem to have some agreement, especially of the fact of the core three, Germany, France, and Britain in terms of a common defense, there's little agreement when you get into like the Hungarians. So in many ways, while there is conversation about coming together, the Europeans are very much off because they don't even agree on military stuff per se. They can't even agree on that as much as they see the importance of.
This has echoes of the Cold War, doesn't it, Musa? I mean, given what right now the latest being reported is this concern among NATO allies about Russia having acquired some technology that they say will enhance their surveillance and protection really for that submarine fleet in the North Atlantic and the Arctic. This has echoes of the Cold War, doesn't it? And also talking about what's come to be known as Russia's shadow fleet, these boats and vessels that seem to be aimed at busting the sanctions on Russian oil.
It does smell of Cold War, right? The Cold War surveillance era, and in many ways we're back there. But to be honest, to this is part and parcel of modern warfare, right? Countries have to build strong intelligence networks. Part of it is equipment that they use. And so for Russia, they see, those European waters as key waters for them, right? They see the threat of NATO as an ever looming and changing sort of threat. For them, this is a defensive posture. Of course, the West will read it as an aggressive posture. In many ways, again, going back to that before, propaganda side, seeing the actions of the other as an aggressive posture and using that as therefore a moral justification to act in kind and increase military spending. And so in many ways, this is it is used by those military pundits as a way of fostering and boosting military spending. This is a good thing for the Europeans, but in many ways, it is the modern warfare that we're in. This is being done in America, the Chinese are doing it, the Iranians are doing it, even The Indians have purchased about 9 billion rand of equipment. Part of that equipment within the Russian. So we really are in modern times that has led to Cold War,
Yeah.
but this is where we have.
All right, Musa, I've got to thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you
Musam
so much indeed.
Dunge is a political analyst weighing in on that situation that we are observing in the North Atlantic as well as the Arctic involving Russian submarine activity.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
As I am trying to be well behaved, and you come here now. I'm thinking of this children's rhyme. Four little pigs went to market. One of them
Oh,
fell down.
wow.
One of them ran away. How many got to town? Four South African teams went to play
Yes.
the rest of the continent. One of them fell down.
One of them fell down. But
Yeah.
we want
How many got to town?
dude, we want to stick to the shine. We want to still shine, okay? The ones that are shining.
The
We
ones that got to town.
just yeah, the ones who are winning in town. We just want to talk about this teams, uh, the clubs that did big on the continent. Kaiser Chiefs, Selma's looking at me. Stellenbosch FC, both through to the group stages of the canned Confed Cup. Chiefs, they lit up Soweto with a 3-1 win over AS Simba. Here's their coach, Cedric Case.
And as well, when you score in the first 3 minutes, it gives that boost, that confidence to keep going, and creates as well a doubt in your opponent's mind. And we were believe that the first 25-30 minutes were the level of football that we played was quite amazing.
All right, let's keep it. Let's keep the one that's spreading the joy at the moment. But it is definitely Stellenbosch now storming to a 4-1 home victory over Angola's 15 de Agosto at the Danny Craven Stadium, making full use of their Cape Winelands advantage. And more good news: Mamelodi Sundowns cruising into the Champions League. The Brazilians wrapped up a 7-1 aggregate win over Nigeria's Remo Stars, finishing the job with a clinical 2-0 at home. Now, Orlando Pirates are the little pig that didn't come home with anything. They kept Champions League. They had a 3-0 win over St. Eloi Lepopo, but the Buccaneers went down 5-4 on penalties, ending their continental run in dramatic fashion there. And over to England, Arsenal have stretched their Premier League lead. It was Eberechi Eze who scored the only goal against Crystal Palace at the Emirates, giving the Gunners a seventh straight win. They're now 4 points clear of Manchester City, seven ahead of Liverpool, both rivals dropping points this weekend, and Spurs ending Everton's unbeaten run at their new stadium, winning 3-0. And finally, the Cheetahs leveled their challenge series with Georgia's Black Lion. Winger Prince Nkabinde scored 2 tries in Bloemfontein as the host secured a 24-5 win, bouncing back from last week's narrow defeat. We'll be back with more sport. That's top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, 6 people have died and 8 others have sustained serious injuries following a crash between a minibus taxi and an SUV in Dullstroom near Belfast in Mpumalanga. Judgment will be handed down in the bail application of an Eastern Cape School deputy principal, Vuyokazi Gana. Gana is accused of human trafficking and forcing young girls into prostitution. And Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has outlined ambitious plans to involve the private sector in South Africa's passenger rail system. Creecy says government alone cannot achieve the necessary recovery goals. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. If it's back to Monday, back to work Monday for you, and you're coming out of Pretoria, this is not good news. There's been a crash and a breakdown on the busy N1 South. A crash at Olifantsfontein. The vehicle broken down just before that crash. So put those two obstructions together, plus Monday volumes in the mix, and it's a queue coming through from Brockfontein interchange already across all lanes, all the way down to that crash just after the Olifants exit. The N3 going north, queuing heavily, Limbro Park up into Buccleuch. That's the roadworks. There's also the N17 roadworks through Boksburg's Rondebolt Road on your way towards sort of the Osborne Road exit. That is slow. You got a single lane section there, and quite heavy coming from Protea Glen and Lenasia on the N12. Joburg bound, a big backlog into the Golden Highway exit. Across in Durban, there's a breakdown on the N2 southbound by Spaghetti Junction. So the rundown from McGinna Road side is already under pressure. The traffic lights on the Kwamashu Highway through Duffs Road down towards the N2, they are still a problem. Both of those lights out due to cable theft recently, and it's very slow leaving Kwamashu towards the highway. And Cape Town, a crash on Spine Road at the N2 Highway Bridge. That's causing a delay south from Mfuleni, north from Khayelitsha, and backing traffic up on the N2 outbound off-ramp. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, for the first update of the week, Ndauling Lechela joins us now. Good morning to you, Ndauling. Happy Monday. Let's start in the United States. Tell me about inflation ticking higher for September.
Morning, Silas. Now, this print is long overdue, of course, being delayed the government shutdown. As to those numbers, prices rose less than expected in September, strengthening expectations that we will cut interest rates this week. According to the Bureau of Labor, the prices increased 3%. Economists rather had forecast slightly higher reading of 2.1%. Excluding food and energy, core inflation 2% on a month-on-month basis, 3% on an annual basis. So, if the price fuel prices was the biggest driver of the monthly increase, while food prices 0%, shelter costs, which make up about a third of I was up 0.2% September and 2.6%. Yeah. I'm saying down and earlier fears about costs have eased with many firms from lower tariffs.
And then tell me about the EU accusing Meta and TikTok of breaching digital rules. What's that about?
So the European Union Commission has accused both Meta and TikTok of violating digital content law, escalating to crack down on a big handling of online safety and transparency. In a statement last Friday, the European Commission said Facebook and Instagram, along with TikTok, had breached the bloc's digital act, sweeping regulations that compels major to curb illegal content and open their data to independent companies. Now, it's the first time Meta has been of the charged the company as regulators of firms fail to provide sufficient access to public data, key requirements meant to get such as exposure of content. The Commission stressed that transparency is central to protecting users and ensuring accountability. TikTok, owned by China's Beijing, it remains transparency while Meta rejected the allegation. The EU could reply to instance Trump criticized a saying about targeting tech like that and go enforcement law without fear.
Lastly, Dowling, recap for us how we closed on Friday and the tone that's being set this morning as we start the week.
The U.S. markets closed last week green with through inflation. There's also optimism about China and U.S. ahead of the meeting between presidents. Back at home, trade downbeat with markets in the red, weighed by pullback in commodities, the PJ oil prices. But that's about 0.3% Friday. Circling back to oil, Brent was this morning, sitting close to $6 per barrel. Meanwhile, the market traded stronger. When SA being removed from during 2 years, that ceiling unit at 22 back. The last major market putting the week off in positive territory. They have tiny.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you just after 7:30 again.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Sipho Mandula for that. Raz, good morning. Let's start with news coming out of Cameroon. Some protests taking place in that country in the wake of the elections there. All right, battling a little bit there to get a hold of Sipho Mandula with the Africa Update, in which he wants to reflect on the outcome of the elections in Cameroon and the subsequent protests that are taking place in that country as well. So let's see if we can connect with Sipho in a moment.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Don't miss your chance to shape the future. The Limpopo Investment Conference 2025, Limpopo Rising, Africa's new investment frontier. Your gateway to unparalleled opportunities from October 30 and 31st in Polokwane. Seize the groundbreaking prospects in mining, agriculture, tourism, and green energy. Connect with global visionaries and investors driving Africa's economic boom. Limpopo's wealth is waiting. Be part of the rise. Join the conversation on lic.lcxonline.co.za. Invest in Limpopo. Invest in success.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore, it's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Africa Update on SAFM.
All right, let's say good morning to Sipho Mandula for that. Sipho, let's start in Cameroon. Tell me about these protests, and they've been deadly protests, yeah?
Plus, refreshment Jumbo Africa. Apologies, plus it seems that we have gremlins along
Monday
the line.
blues, brother. Monday blues.
Monday blues, and they call it malaria day. Plus, others they say malaria day. Plus, we look at Douala, where yesterday 4 people were killed due to the protest. Remember that the members and the supporters of Mr. Roma have been defying this outcome of the results, claiming that they've won with almost 4%. 2 of the leaders were arrested on Friday. To Camp Tamen, who used to live here, by the way, to South Africa. And Sinte Ekani also was arrested. This has caused tension in one of the regional economic hubs of Cameroon. Others pointing that goodbye Paul Biya, the Roma is coming. This is worrying us because we are in that electoral violence. You might not say of electoral justice, because remember last week I said all the petitions were thrown out of the court. Now it's back to the street, what I call post-election violence.
And let's focus on Tanzania. An election in 2 days. The incumbent President Samia Suluhu declaring the polls date a public holiday.
That's true. He says, and even the public and the private sector have to go and tell them. These elections are very important because we have what we call electing the president, the members of parliament, the local councillors. We are looking at 37.6 million voters who are eligible to take part. I mean, 2 days in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. There are still challenges to us. The electoral system works to us has the system, the president and the vice president directly elected by a simple majority popular vote, except for 30%, which is also renewable. For Samia Sulu, would you say the second time because he was a caretaker after John Pinde, Magufuli? Nothing contesting in this election. Hassan is contesting with presenting unknown characters because Chadema and Wazalendo are not taking part in this election. So we'll come tomorrow to what
forward to that, Sipho. The 25th of October was marked as SADC Anti-Sanctions Day. Tell me what the call is from SADC with regard to sanctions against Zimbabwe.
As you recall, once it comes from the REC, from the regional economic body to gain attraction from Addis Ababa, the AU, I mean, they are raising an important issue that they are calling for the unconditional lifting of sanctions in Zimbabwe because there is a link with the regional integration and socio-economic cultural development of the people of the region. SADC over the weekend issued that they have a long-standing position that these sanctions are unjust, detrimental to the region's collective progress. In Addis Ababa, they are saying they are calling for unilateral cohesive measures that represent a major impediment to the socio-economic development of Zimbabwe, as well as the SADC region. The EU also told us calling them illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe and calling for those removal of those sanctions. So we don't talk about sanctions, we talk about the
Yeah. Another measure, right? Coercive measure
yeah.
at international relations. Sipo, lastly, your historical archive focuses on a giant of our democracy that's not celebrated as much as it should be. To quote Justice Albie Sachs, if a DNA test were to be done on the South African Constitution, its DNA result would come back and show the DNA of Oliver Tambo. Tell me about the 27th of October 1917.
Thulas, he will have been 108 years. He's the son of Jimmy and Julia. Dedicated his entire life to the liberation struggle. Others they say he skipped the former president of his political career and played a fatherly role in exile. With the great crisis in the University of Fort here, you might be that kind of spirit to lead with young people how to understand the dynamic that Oliver Tambo had to face to us. Deep racial injustice that shaped his political career. Key areas that I saw, global sanctions campaign was very instrumental to promote economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation against apartheid. Amongst liberation movements that was holding Addis Ababa for the OAU meeting. Education initiative showed us that there is the critical role of education, arts, and culture in this country for the youth program. Resistance to emphasizing the military diplomacy of Umkhonto Wesizwe. And finally, plus, might not leave it aside that plus, long before the fall of apartheid, there's a meaning that there's a some organized external system can invade democratic South Africa. We know plus 1993, Oliver Tambo passed away during those times of that. So this is a leader that I try to cover that picture to us
Yeah.
on the African commemorating the life of. And it's not like for instance that the G20 is coming up. You might need that to geopolitics.
Sipo, thank you for that. That's Sipo Mandula with the Africa update for this Monday.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Credit to the initial reporting of Independent Online on this next story. It's an intriguing legal development that could see dozens. In fact, let me just see if we can start with this story coming out on the diplomatic front, right? Before I get to that story about extraditions, let me go to President Cyril Ramaphosa undertaking in the last few days a landmark three-nation visit to Southeast Asia. It started on the 22nd of October and ended on the and actually ends on the 28th of October, underscoring South Africa's strategic pivot towards the Asia Pacific region and the broader global south. The trip, encompassing state visits to Indonesia, Vietnam, and a working visit to Malaysia, aims to deepen trade, investment, and diplomatic cooperation, while also positioning South Africa as a proactive partner in one of the world's fastest growing economic regions. Let's speak to Vincent Magwenya, presidential spokesperson, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Vincent, and thank you for your time this morning. Let's talk about the importance of these countries and why it's a three-country tour and why it's happening at this time. What is the aim and intention of this visit?
Well, good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Really, the aim is to deepen the bilateral relations with these nations, but more importantly, expand the trade and investment opportunities in within these markets. Um, Thulas, the Southeast Asia region is a market of 700 million people. Of that, Indonesia alone is a country of 100 million people. So these are massive markets that we're already trading with, but certainly we can expand that trade and we can be a lot more aggressive in terms of creating a more favorable trade framework between ourselves and those markets. And so that's been really the primary purpose of the president's visit. But also historically, there's been a lot of solidarity and shared historical experiences between countries such as Malaysia and Vietnam and South Africa. And so it was important to just rekindle those old relationships that we have.
Yeah, and a conversation that's been amplifying in the last while, Vincent, is the need. We pick it up on this show by South Africans for us to be able to account for these visits. Who did the president take with for strategic conversations that can open up pathways to alternative markets? As you and I have come to learn that actually there's a sense of urgency for us to diversify our export markets. So, who did the president take, and what kind of deals were struck during these visits?
And so certainly agriculture is top of our priority list in this regard. We're already exporting a significant amount of agricultural goods and produce to these markets. So Minister Stenhuisen was part of the delegation. There is huge appetite for trade in the area of defense, equipment in particularly, recognizing South Africa's advanced defense manufacturing industry. So Minister Motshekga was part of the delegation. All three countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, equally expressed the desire to enter into a free trade agreement with South Africa. Therefore, it was important for Minister Pakstau to form part of the delegation in that respect. And as you always have it, these visits are primarily arranged and organized by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. There is a political and diplomatic aspect to them. And so, appropriately, Minister Lamola was part of the delegation. There are also exchanges being explored in the area of security, particularly when it comes to coordinating anti-human trafficking measures. So Minister Katalia formed part of the delegation in Vietnam. Minister Ntabeni is part of the delegation here in Malaysia. So that's been the composition of the South African team, which also included a number of business people
Yeah.
from the agricultural sector and other relevant sectors of the visit.
Yeah. And also, part of the visit in Malaysia includes attending the ASEAN summit and the East Asia summit as a guest of the chair. Align that for me with South Africa's hosting of the G20 and the presidency of the G20 that's now coming to an end in November.
Absolutely, Sulis. As you know, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, will be part of the G20 contingent of heads of state and government in a few weeks' time in South Africa. It was important in that context that South Africa honors the invitation. South Africa is given the status of a strategic dialogue partner to the ASEAN region as well as to the summit. And therefore, in respect to aligning the themes, ensuring that there is broader global buy-in of our G20 goals and themes, it was vital that the president honored the invitation and was able to exchange perspectives with various Asian leaders and other world leaders who are here. Yesterday, he held a dinner with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney as well as the European Union President, President Costa, as well as world leaders who were present at that dinner and again in that effort of and aligning perspectives and ensuring that we get unanimity with respect to our declaration of.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. That's Vincent Magwenya, presidential spokesperson, talking to us from Malaysia.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Sanral have been talking for a long time about putting some lane closures in around the Olifantsfontein exit up at Clayville. This is the R21 going north to finally fix up that sinkhole. It looks like, despite a sort of couple of weeks delay, they may well be underway. There is some queuing pressure into a work zone at Olifantsfontein. It's the first morning. Now, these are scheduled to go right through until the end of February next year. They may extend because they were late starting, but that's the deal. From now, they are in, and it's a reasonably long term. So if you're leaving the airport on your way towards Pretoria, quite a heavy backlog at Olifantsfontein. It's the first morning of many that you will sit there. Coming southbound on the R21 down towards Voortrekker Road, approaching the airport, quite heavy. And a big backlog coming through Midrand today, leaving Pretoria. Monday morning volumes running into a breakdown at Samran and a crash just past Olifantsfontein, the N1, backing up from Brockfontein. N3 north and south, pretty heavily backed into Buccleuch and southbound into London Road. If you've been on those diversion routes to avoid the roadworks on the N3, probably a good idea to still be on them because the roadworks continue at some pace. N12 in from Protea Glen and Lanesia, big queues this morning, moving up towards the Golden Highway exit, coming up towards Eldorado Park. Durban, a breakdown. N2 south before Spaghetti Junction, so that's traffic coming through from Umgeda Road under quite a bit of pressure. Queues back as far as in Under Road. Northbound's heavy already from the M7 up through Westwood Mall, and those traffic light issues on the Komashu Highway at Duffs Road and the N2 due to cable theft still plaguing that run out of Komashu in the morning and back home in the afternoon. Cape Town crash on the Spine Road, N2 Bridge, a taxi and a bus involved in that, coming south from Mfuleni or north from Khayelitsha towards the N2 Highway Bridge on Spine Road. It's very busy, and the N2 off-ramp heading out of town in towards that Spine Road mess is very slow. And Baden-Powell quite busy already. It's open, but just moving through that sort of protest zone, if you like, between JFK Masemola and the N2 on your way to Stellenbosch is quite slow. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, back to that story where I was saying credit to the initial reporting of Independent Online. It's an intriguing legal development that could see dozens of the country's most wanted criminals walk free. The National Prosecuting Authority has warned that a legal loophole in the country's extradition laws might let 59 suspects, including the alleged killers of rapper aka, slip through the cracks. At the center of it all is what's now known as the Cholota strategy, named after former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's former aide, who recently won her freedom on a technicality. The NPA says the president sat in that case and another involving fugitive Jonathan Schultz is being used by suspects across the world to avoid facing trial in South Africa. The issue now before the Constitutional Court, where the NPA hopes to overturn that precedent. Let's speak to Andre Thomas Hausen, Professor Emeritus for International Law at UNISA. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning. So, to the best of your understanding, what is this loophole that has to do with extradition and the lawfulness thereof, and how it then impacts once the people are back in the country, or impacts the ability of South Africa to bring fugitives to justice?
Yes, good morning. Indeed, there is a standoff between the NPA and the Department of Justice. But I don't think it is a loophole. the South African Extradition Act finds very clearly that the Minister of Justice is the entity authority for granting extradition requests and for making such requests. So if a foreign country wants to extradite to approach so through the Minister of International Cooperation, and vice versa, if we want to extradite somebody to South Africa, follow the same route. This has been explained in great detail with the Supreme Court of Appeal, recent judgment two months ago. The MPA always said they wouldn't. They haven't. It's not also not leave to appeal it. It is puzzling because it is indeed delaying very necessary and extradition request as long as also to be extradited, turn to the authorities in the country where they are and say the extradition request of Africa is invalid because it was made by the wrong people, essentially by the prosecutors and federal minister, and that extradition will not happen.
How did we get there, though, Prof? That there are instances where the request for an extradition is made by prosecutors when, as you say, the law is clear that it should be the executive authority being the Minister of Justice. Is it a matter of the black letter law being, in a way, superseded by practice that normalized over a period of time?
Maybe that practice has gone through a few times. I think it resides more fundamentally in a grave misconception. The National Prosecuting Authority would be some kind of an independent judicial organism. It is not. In no rule of law country can prosecutors do as they wish without any oversight, without take things from somebody's home. They need an authority by the court. They need a warrant. If they want to extradite, because it involves South Africa's foreign relations, it makes great sense. Executive case, final say over this matter. Also, they have cut to sort of any other authority in South Africa and now also internationally. That is that.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Professor Andre Thomas Hausen, Professor Emeritus for International Law at UNISA. Brings us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
On behalf of SAFM Business Manager Anthony Soglo, the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa has found that SAFM was found negligent in not having abided by the 2024 national and provincial election regulations. In particular, SAFM failed to comply with Regulation 414B, which stipulates a broadcast service licensee that broadcasts a political elections broadcast must do so in accordance with the sequence and timing prescribed by the authority in terms of these regulations. In that twice, on the 12th of May 2024 and 13th of May 2024, 14th of May 2024, 15th of May 2024, 16th of May 2024, 17th of May 2024, 3 times on 19 May 2024, 20th of May 2024, 25th of May 2024, and 26th of May 2024, SAFM broadcast a particular political election broadcast when a different political election broadcast was scheduled. The conduct of SAFM was in conflict with the CASA election regulations, which require that political advertisements and political election broadcasts be broadcast in terms of the regulations. SAFM further extends its apology to ICASA and to its listeners for having committed the contravention.
In our top stories, 6 people killed in Mpumalanga road crash and Hurricane Melissa closes in on Jamaica. Good morning. 6 people have died and 8 others sustained serious injuries following a crash between a minibus taxi and an SUV in Dullstroom near Belfast in Mpumalanga. The Provincial Safety, Security and Liaison Department says the cause of yesterday's crash is under investigation. The department spokesperson Mueti Musi says the driver of the minibus taxi sustained slight injuries.
A sports utility vehicle SUV and a minibus taxi collided in a side-swipe collision on Sunday afternoon. 6 of the deceased were all passengers in the minibus taxi. 8 people sustained serious injuries, and they include 7 passengers in the minibus taxi and the driver of the SUV.
The Gauteng Department of Education says schooling will not be disrupted at Hoërskool Alberton east of Johannesburg after a light aircraft crashed into the school's tuck shop yesterday. The pilot and instructor who were on board the aircraft reportedly sustained no injuries, the department spokesperson Steve Mabona.
This incident will not disrupt schooling activities or the ongoing National Senior Certificate examinations. Parents were advised to ensure that learners bring their own food as the tuck shop will not be in operation. The department commends the school management, emergency services, and the aviation authorities for their prompt response to the sudden incident. Their swiftness ensured the safety of all those that were in the school premises at the time.
Judgment will be handed down in the bail application of an Eastern Cape School's deputy principal, Vuyokazi Ghana. Ghana is accused of human trafficking and forcing young girls into prostitution. Last week, the East London Magistrate Court heard the closing arguments from both the defence and state. The state is opposing bail, saying Ghana is facing serious charges and fears she might interfere with witnesses. She's accused of allegedly luring young girls to East London in promise of jobs and then forcing them into prostitution. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy has outlined ambitious plans to involve the private sector in South Africa's passenger rail system. Creecy says government alone cannot achieve the necessary recovery goals. She made the announcement during a media briefing in Pretoria yesterday. She provided updates on the request for information regarding private sector participation in passenger rail.
The request covers a range of different areas that include fare collection systems, depot management, utilization and commercialization of Prosus fiber network to enhance digital connectivity and operational resilience within the rail sector and beyond.
And finally, the Jamaican government has ordered mandatory evacuation for parts of the capital, Kingston, and other areas as Hurricane Melissa continues to approach the Caribbean island. Melissa is the 13th hurricane in this year's Atlantic season, which typically ends in November. The BBC's Will Grant has the details.
In the hours before Hurricane Melissa makes landfall in Jamaica, the authorities have issued evacuation orders for several areas, including the coastal town of Port Royal, and warned people to seek immediate shelter. The storm is expected to be one of the strongest to hit the island on record, with meteorologists warning of 225 km/h winds and up to a metre of rain being dumped on Jamaica in the coming days. The US National Hurricane Center has said the storm could bring catastrophic flooding to some parts of the island.
Recapping the top stories, 6 people have died and 8 others sustained serious injuries following a crash between a minibus taxi and an SUV in Dullstroom near Belfast in Mpumalanga. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
48-year-old Felicity spotted an outsurance deal that was too good to drive past. She now pays only 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. And 52-year-old Janine was all smiles when Outsurance gave her a premium of just 561 Rand a month for her 2024 Kia Picanto 1.2. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754 today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
And it's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. Soccer action. Mamelodi Sundowns dominant, brushing aside Remo Stars on aggregate to advance in the CAF Champions League. And in rugby, the Stormers, they soar to the top of the URC SA log. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy through Midrand. A crash down by Olifantsfontein this morning. All lanes are open, but Monday volumes means a delay right back into Buccleuch, into Bruckfontein to almost New Road before you're out of that. Roadworks have appeared this morning. R21 North at Clayville up by Olifantsfontein. If you're leaving the airport to Pretoria, it's heavy. And coming to the airport, the R21 towards Voortrekker Road under a bit of pressure. Also some big queues in from Lenasia, the N12 up to Golden Highway exit. Durban's N2 South, the breakdown at Spaghetti Junction down to Umgeda Road still there. That queue is back as far as in Under Road, and Cape Town a bus and taxi collision on Spine Road over the N2 bridge at Khayelitsha, causing all sorts of delays all directions. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. Happy Monday to you. Welcome to it, the second hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Among some of what we will cover in this hour, we will delve deeper into South Africa being removed from the Financial Action Task Force's grey list. It's a significant development. It's one of those shackles, as if our economy needed more shackles to be imposed. This was one of those that was imposed on us about 2 years and 8 months ago. 2 years and 8 months. February 2023 is when we went into that grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. It had dire implications for how we are perceived, really, in the markets globally, and just the levels of caution that people exercised when transacting with South Africa. That was part of the impact. Ismail Momoniat, advisor at National Treasury, is on standby to unpack it all and how we got to the point where we exited from the grey list and how do we stay out of it now that we are out. So that conversation coming up in the next few minutes. And then we'll go back to that question where I said it's a bit of a thorny issue when allegations are made publicly against a member of the judiciary. How do you ventilate those allegations and grapple with them honestly without unduly giving credence to allegations made without any evidence to back it up? How do you subject the judiciary to sufficient scrutiny without denigrating their integrity unnecessarily through unsubstantiated claims of corruption and bribery? This conversation has become pertinent, of course, in light of the allegations we've seen coming through from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, because it's all playing out in public. And until the judges accused, the members of the judiciary who are accused in that manner sit in that chair, that allegation lingers. How do you deal with it? The National Association of Democratic Lawyers has got a stance and a view, and I'll be speaking to Machine Mutloung, who is the spokesperson of the National Association of Democratic Lawyers, that is NADEL. That conversation coming up at about 20 past 7. Let's talk. I see a lot of your messages already coming in. I will take your calls as well. Do call me 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief.
You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer, Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 65-year-old Helena, who now pays an incredibly low 398 Rand a month for her 2025 Hyundai Exter. With Outsurance, you get the legendary Out Bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 48-year-old Felicity now pays only 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. Outsurance will either save you money on your car insurance or give you cash. If Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November 2025 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
13 minutes after 7. 2 years and 8 months after it wrote our name on its bad books, the Financial Action Task Force has finally given the nod for South Africa to exit the grey list. South Africa has officially been removed from FATF's grey list, a global watch list for countries with strategic deficiencies in combating money laundering and terrorist financing. The decision marks a significant step forward for Africa's most industrialized economy, signaling renewed confidence from global markets and investors. Let's speak to Ismail Momoniat, advisor at National Treasury. Good morning and thank you for your time. We will get to what the implications are now that we are out of the grey list, but just recap for us. How did we land up there in the first place? Many of us pride ourselves in just the stringency of regulation of various sectors in this country. The point is made sometimes that just to open a bank account, you need to bring almost everything. You may even need to do a DNA test. You can't buy a SIM card without going through all the regulations. But despite all of that, we ended up on the grey list. How?
Morning, Thulasizwe, and to your listeners. Well, we were grey listed essentially because, I would say, because of where our institutions were. So what happened was in 2019, when the task force did mutual evaluation or review of our anti-money laundering, they found many things. Now, it's legal and now in for money.
So how did that manifest? There were many aspects, of course. We had 22 action items, but which ones were most pressing for you? For instance, I'm thinking about the ability of institutions to investigate and prosecute serious economic offenses. Was that one of the main ones?
Yes, so that was definitely one of the main ones. And that, and together with a similar one on investigations related to finance, action into systems that find by the essentially the issue is our institutions were weakened in that. But we didn't demonstrate was that our institutions were to invest cases that take money on do it quickly enough and profit. A good example is that although after the visa hospital, the taking of the visa department, the leasing of the visas, that she exposed it in 2021, and even 4 years later, who's actually killed her have been convicted. Nobody has been convicted for looting tenders to this.
So let's talk then about the work that needed to go into fixing those deficiencies. You say 22 action items. And I think at various points, South Africans interacted with this system and these reforms without realizing that this is what was happening, didn't we? For instance, that whole process around beneficial ownership and needing to go back to SARS if you have an enterprise and confirming all of that. That was part of that work that you did. Talk to me about all, well, not all, but as many as possible of the reforms that needed to happen.
Yes, no, absolutely. So, you started off just talking about that. That's what's called sustainability. Now, our banking system didn't have that in place. Two was that in place for non-financial business. Many other things were not covered, and secondly, we didn't have a register about who's the ultimate feature of a company. That information needs to be, and a good example to go can be taught. It's about knowing all those companies that say can be taught with who was those available, both government agencies and I uh, uh, need to get to ownership best. So that's the issue.
Yeah.
The main one to increase authorities care effectively uh, a from the speed of benefit. Um, the point you made on investigation prosecution was example how utilize the financial intelligence as a thanks for system that use that information for aid.
Yeah.
So first sort of that we had.
Yeah. So lastly, then, what are the implications of being out of that grey list, and how do we stay out of it? What were the shackles that it was imposing that we've now shed, and how do we keep them off?
So I think the good look, getting off the grey list is a big milestone. We shouldn't have been there in the first, and it and reputation. Now that we back to the norm we had in teaching was done. However, that norm is still not. So what we need to do is to not the grade. Next year in 2027, we have yet another assessment by the and we make sure demonstrate the improvements we've made during this stage. We've not only improved the last since the on-site visit say in July in the last of 2 years, but that we have a system in place to also work again in a speedier manner, more, more effective. And that is actually good for the country. Take all the looting of the procurement and corruption, which is still there, maybe not life, and ability to ensure that we end those types of crimes and identify them again. Those are the issues will be assessed.
Yeah.
And frankly, to not be for the country will mean that this.
Yeah. Before I let you go, let me ask you. Someone here, Felix in Midrand says you opened up by saying, attributing the weaknesses and deficiencies to the period of state capture. Felix says, there we go again, scapegoating that mirage called state capture for grey listing that took place 6 years after Zuma. That's one full presidential term plus a year. How do you respond to a skeptic like Felix, who will say something like that?
So our poor outcome from our mutual evaluation that was done in 2019, and that was the our and that was 1 year after the time, and place the the SARS on it gives time reverse it can that is going to value. It's not just to continue corruption from the we see even today that we haven't started to reverse that. That will become the reason doing value.
And then lastly, I know I've been saying lastly a lot. please, please
No,
forgive
that's
me.
fine.
Now that we've shared this as a shackle on our economy, how do you believe we will measure it in impact? Because we've been talking structural reforms, the various reforms in the pipeline industries, and other aspects of those reforms. This is just another piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Will we be able to measure it in terms of helping our economy grow? Because my goodness, do we need that growth?
Look, it's hard to measure immediately, but what will mean, for example, that overseas will be able to do business with us at the rate. So when we do this our doing, don't have more time diligence. So the time and the cost setting transactions will simply be used. That could mean that less should cost of doing business with South Africa, doing trade, doing investments from the account. Importantly, if it happens with changes, like let's say if our investment rate improves and so on, all of those factors will help. And if we do get more investment and more, then certainly that will reflect on our ability of the economy, so the economy goes hopefully really.
Yeah.
But nothing is going to be a silver bullet like let me uh, but it is a positive. It was a barrier. Getting rid of it means that we could move on, rebuild uh, our reputation, strengthen our economy.
All right. Kura, thank you for your time. That was my final, finally, to you, Ishmael Momoniat, advisor at National Treasury.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Your reactions to that conversation coming in thick and fast. Let me take a few of those now.
Treasury representative is lying. He made excuse of state capture. Now he's going to Papita issue. That grey listing had everything to do with the $80 Ramaphosa hidden on his couch.
Good morning, Tulas, and good morning to SAFM listeners. Tulas, can you please explain to me what state capture is? The meaning of state capture. What do we mean by state capture? I think maybe you do know, because then if you don't know what that meaning is, then you should have asked the speaker, the person you're currently interviewing. What is state capture? Because we didn't ask that question, I assume you know what state capture is. Can you please explain to South Africans what state capture is? Thank you.
Look, I'm no expert, and that is very clear. That should be clear to everyone. But let me remind you, very first day of the hearings into the state capture in the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. In fact, the first few days were dedicated to exactly that question that sought to answer what's the difference between state capture and corruption in the ordinary sense of things. I think you and I were both around for that. I don't know. If not, if you didn't see it, I would encourage you to search for it and find it. But without running away from your question, and to the best of my understanding, state capture, the way it was defined throughout all of those processes, was the kind of corruption that sought to hollow out institutions. So there's corruption that says, I bribe Zelma and I get a tender, and we all walk away. A few months later, we're in trouble and we're being investigated. My understanding of what state capture entailed included that actually I'm not only bribing Zelma, but I'm ensuring that the prosecutor who's supposed to prosecute is appointed in such a way that it's the person that I want to be in place. The investigator at the Hawks is on my side, and basically you are capturing the state, as in organs of state. You hollow them out, you weaken them, you ensure that weak people that cannot really do the job are appointed to that position. That is me, in a nutshell, relating what was explained and traversed right before our eyes over the past, I don't know how many years, especially during those hearings. Whether or not you buy into it, because I've heard this narrative that says, I don't buy into the narrative of state capture, but it is defined. So whether or not you agree, whether that happened in South Africa, that is entirely your view, and you are at large to form that view.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's
Yeah, please go ahead.
it's
Before
Sundowns.
before I capture you.
Captured I must be. Ooh, well, let's go to this team. They look like they capture everything, including their coach, Miguel Cardoso, believing that the capturing of the group stage in the CAF Champions League reflects the strength of the PSL, but also enhancing the club's continental rankings. The Brazilians sealing a commanding 7-1 aggregate victory over Remo Stars.
We understood how to give him what kind of behaviors we would want from him in the pitch and inside the team, and how to build the team not around him but complement them all. And I think in the moment we are having indeed a wonderful Arthur that is following also the excitement the team has shown in the last matches. So I'm even curious to see what he has to show, because he's also a wonderful boy.
South African clubs still delivering big performances. Kaizer Chiefs and Stellenbosch FC both through to the group stages of the CAF Confed Cup. Orlando Pirates unfortunately out of the CAF Champions League despite a brave 3-0 win over St. Eluali Popo in Soweto. The Buccaneers clawed back the aggregate but went down 5-4 on penalties. Arsenal moving 4 points clear at the top of the Premier League, seeing off Crystal Palace 1-0. Matty Cash firing Aston Villa to a 1-0 win over Manchester City, and goals from Kylian Mbappe and Jude Bellingham earned Real Madrid a 2-1 victory over Barcelona. That was the El Clasico that took place yesterday. Athletics news, Adrian Wiltshire broke another South African record, setting a new national mark on his 21-kilometer debut at the Valencia Half Marathon in Spain. The 27-year-old runner, he finished fifth in a race that was won by the former world record holder Yomif Kejelcha of Ethiopia. Wiltshire took 23 seconds off the 5-year-old South African record that was set by Stephen Makoka in Poland in October 2020. And finally, tennis, Yannick Sinner digging deep in Vienna. The Italian fought back from a set down to beat Alexander Zverev 3-6, 6-3, 7-5, lifting his fourth title of the year. We'll be back lifting you with some good news sport. Top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a police forensic ballistics expert is scheduled to testify at the Matlanga Commission this morning. The commission is continuing with public hearings investigating allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. 6 people have died and 8 others have sustained serious injuries following a crash between a minibus taxi and an SUV in Dullstroom near Belfast in Mpumalanga. And protests have flared in several cities across Cameroon following partial election results indicating 92-year-old President Paul Biya is on course to secure another term in office. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. The R21 leaving the airport. Tambo International on your way to Pretoria, catching everybody out this morning. Sanrail's lane closures at Olifantsfontein are now there. They've been advertising this for a while. It was a late start. I think they were supposed to get underway about 3 weeks ago, but this morning they've definitely gone in. 2 lanes closed at that sinkhole signed up by Olifantsfontein. Very heavy. If you're on your way out of the airport en route to Pretoria, it is day one of many days of delays. They're scheduled right through until about the end of February 2026. So plenty of delays in store there. It is the first day you're driving into that one. Crash coming out of Benoni to Boksburg, N12 and Atlas Road. That's quite heavy. Queues back as far as Snake Road. Other side of town, the N12 in from Lenasia, Protea Glen, still queuing up to the Golden Highway. Exit the N3 roadworks continuing south at London, north at Buccleuch. It's jam-packed through there. And we're pretty busy on the M1 South this morning. It is a post-payday sort of week that we're looking at, so a lot more volume in the mix. Brockfontein to New Road is the extent of the queue moving south through Midrand. Durban side, a crash halfway down Fields Hill. So if you're arriving from Hillcrest into Kloof, that's quite slow from about the golf course area onto the hill into the crash. Breakdown before Umhlanga, so coming from the airport, that's heavy. Also the N2 North from the M7 up through Westwood Mall, pretty jam-packed as well. And the breakdown leaving Pietermaritzburg near Market Road, slowing traffic on your way to Durban. Cape Town, Spine Road at Khayelitsha, crash involving a bus and a taxi on the bridge with the N2 highway. So going in and out of Khayelitsha, that's still very slow. R300's busy from Delft up towards Van Riebeeck Road this morning. And if you're on the M5, there's a little bit of a queue from sort of Parkwood area up to Wetton Road Bridge. Once you get past that, from Kenilworth all the way through towards the N2 highway, it's pretty heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
All right, let's turn to Ndauling for the second update of the morning. Ndauling, FATF has taken us off their grey list, and this is being welcomed widely.
That's right, Thulas, a move that was widely expected. Country being taken into financial action task grey list of countries that were seen as not doing enough to stop money laundering and terrorism financing. Now, National Treasury said the decision made in Paris last week comes after more than 2 years of hard work by government, law enforcement agencies, and the private sector to close gaps in the country's financial controls. Treasury called it a major achievement that is rebuilding key institutions and strengthening the rule of law after years of decline. And the private sector welcomed the decision. Banking Association of South Africa said the move proves the country fix problems in action, not just promises. While business for South Africa is what can be achieved when business and government work together. Now, stronger laws, better oversight, and more action against financial crime help SA meet international standards. Being removed from the list should make it easier to do business and attract investment. But Treasury said next SAFF review will take place next year and warned that country must keep to stay focused.
Yeah, so our name has been removed, waiting for our name to be called. Our body was shaking with disbelief. Not that we've never worked for it. We worked for it to be.
We did.
We did. We worked hard for it. All right. Enough of that. Why is Moody's warning of risks in Transnet's debt reduction strategy?
So basically, Moody's is saying without any state funding, without state guarantees, there are major execution risks to Transnet's turnaround strategy. The ratings agency had Transnet's baseline credit assessment, CAA1, signaling very high credit risk without government backing. Now, the downgrade reflects what Moody's called persistent structural weaknesses from downbeat operational recovery to an unsustainable debt load that has left the group unable to cover interest payments from earnings. Still, Moody's kept Transnet's overall rating steady at Ba3, essentially junk status, but outlook is stable, citing 145.8 billion rand in government guarantees that cover nearly all of its debt over the next 5 years. Transnet, which holds more than 130 billion rand, is counting on private sector partnerships and asset sales to cut debt. Plans, Moody's says, carry significant execution risk. Transnet CEO Michelle Phillips said the support from government gives the group room to focus on reforms at its ports and railways operations. Investors, meanwhile, see signs of early progress through confidence remains tied, though rather confidence remains tied to the state's continued backing.
All right, Laslin Dowling, how are we looking on the markets this morning?
Kicking things off in Asia, green across the board. Japanese Nikkei leading the gains there, up 2.2%. Sentiment has been upbeat in Tokyo following the appointment of Takaichi as Prime Minister. All eyes will be on her as she meets with President Trump. And that's just one meeting traders will be keeping an eye on. In addition, traders in the US are also awaiting a rates decision from the Fed this week. Ahead of that, futures are in positive territory. Local markets, however, not as upbeat, closing last week in the red on the back of softer metals prices, all shared down 0.3%. The rand, in the meantime, trading stronger after SA was removed from the grey list, sitting at 17.22 to the greenback. Oil also making gains this hour after on Friday. Brent is up 0.4%, trading just above $66 per barrel.
We just had to, right? So you may never wonder when your name is not called from the register of the masters. Our name is no longer called from the register of grey-listed people.
Call if you say your body's shaking with disbelief. Cause you never ever work for it.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's go straight to your calls this morning. Let me start with Loyiso in the Eastern Cape. Loyiso, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
Yes. There is something that I feel is being unfair about how we contract with real estate.
Yes.
The focus here is on state capture, which when according to the definition or the limitations of the Zondo Commission, it was specifically focused on corruption, on capture that happened under President Zuma. What got us in the grey listing is not that kind of capture.
Mm-hmm.
It is the biggest issue there was international money laundering.
Yes.
Which involved multinational corporations, international crime syndicates, drug smuggling, and international terrorism, funding of international terrorism.
Yes.
All of those are not part of the state capture that we heard about.
Yes.
In the Zondo Commission.
Absolutely.
The multinational corporations, the state capture that facilitated multinational corporations, the kind of state capture that we saw in the first administration, the government making concessions that were counterintuitive, which allowed companies like SAB, the Rupert Group, and most mining companies take all their wealth to the London Stock Exchange. That was counterintuitive. Nobody understand why they actually made capital flight so easy.
Sure.
That was the first level of state capture. International crime,
Yeah.
in fact, corporate crime.
Yeah. Loiso, I have to push you a little bit because I've got other people waiting as well. So please conclude that point for me, please.
All right.
Are you not going to conclude? I was saying just take it to the end.
Okay.
Yeah, very quickly.
All right. All the international crime syndicates are mostly out of South African control. It's not our corporation.
Yeah.
It's not our syndicate. So all of these international money laundering, this all give the impression that this is the corruption that happened under Zuma, and essentially it's got a black face.
Yeah.
This all gives them a white face.
All right. Loiso, thank you for that. That's Loiso out in the Eastern Cape making that point. I don't know, is it Mawela? Good morning. Or
Morning.
Is it Mawel or Mawela? Maxwell. Okay. Apologies for that, Maxwell. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Thulas. I know you're well.
Yes.
Thulas, the issue of the state capture it's a very, very interesting situation. Because for me, it looks like fishing. You've got people who are still active in the ruling party. Some of them you heard recently that Uncle Biden just revoked. What happened with him? How can a person install something in your house without you knowing? We know that there were people who benefited from the drumstick situation. What happened with them? We know that there are lots of people who now adopt that.
Wait, Maxwell. The drumstick situation.
With Busasa.
Okay.
The issue of Gavin Watson, do you think that Gavin Watson is dead, Thulas? Because I don't believe that. Honestly speaking, the drama that was involved there was something else. To cut the long story short, Thulas, when you are still with the people who are being supported by anything, you will still be protected. But the minute you get out of those people, anything will happen. I'm waiting to see what will happen to Uncle Brazy after his submission was rejected.
Yeah.
What will happen after it? Because for me, the state capture, it was the divisive part that led the ANC to the way it is.
Gotcha.
And it's a fishing expenditure where people are arrested, others are not arrested.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line with the state capture. Very disappointed about Orlando Pirates. Bye-bye.
that requires a commission of inquiry of its own. Maxwell, thank you for that. In fact, Maxwell makes the point I was going to make that in the case of Gwede Mantashe, he had taken the report of the Zondo Commission on review in the High Court, and that was concluded earlier on this month, I think it was, with that bid being thrown out of court. So Maxwell says he wonders what will then happen now that that outcome has come through. Mbuyisa, good morning.
Sawubona mkhulu.
Sawubona baba, kunjani?
Yes, siyaphila njani mkhulu?
Ngiyaphila. Please go ahead.
You know, sometimes this international, one can believe that they do have physical eyes. The issue of realistic is suspicious in the sense that emphasis confines itself within the sense of what we call the state. I mean, whether people like it or not, the situation we are currently in, where there is a corruption and worse than state capture, people are being killed here. The government officials here are dealing with criminals. Then we are removed from grey listing. When in fact I believe that we are supposed to be kept there and we must, in fact, it's supposed to be stringent now than ever before. But for some reason, now we are being removed. All I'm saying is that it appears that anything that got anything to do with Zuma and everything that anything with Ramaphosa is good, and what is everything that got everything to do with Zuma is bad, which is bad, actually.
Yeah.
Which is bad. Because I can tell you now, we are in the worst scenario, and we are in a worse situation than the time of the capture, because none of those people are involved in the state capture.
Buisa?
They did not even
Yeah.
influence the government official in terms of money-wise, but to be protected after killing people brutally is something else. But thank you very much.
I hear you, Mbuisa, and thank you for that. I've got to make the point from what I'm picking up. There were 22 action items for us. Some of them, as you heard Ismail Momoniat saying, related to weaknesses of institutions that had been the result of the hollowing out of those institutions. But by no means, I do not believe that the whole entire reason why we were grey listed had to do with state capture. It doesn't help when your institutions are weakened and they are weakened deliberately. Yes, that doesn't help. But if you check the reasons, there were many reasons. I remember a few years ago, well, not a few years ago, some years ago, when the question was asked, why does it seem that South Africa has not been a target of terrorists, but it's easy for people planning terrorism attacks to have some kind of link with South Africa. Remember the lady that had South African passport, etc. The question arose then. That's a weakness in your systems when you've got thousands of people owning companies in terms of the CIPC system, but you honestly don't know who those people are. That's a weakness that FATF pointed to, and so on and so on. The RICA system, where you can have one person going to do RICA for 300 SIM cards that they then sell on to people. That's ease of operating if you want to get engaged in illicit activities. So let's not narrow it down to, this one issue that Ismail Momoniat used to base, his comment about this grey listing. It wasn't about one issue. And he did say that himself, that it was a confluence of factors that did include the weakening of our institutions for particularly investigating serious and complex crimes and corruption. He did make that point, but let's not narrow it. I don't think we'd be doing justice to the topic if we narrow it down to just one issue. There were many, many issues. That's why many of you had your companies deregistered by CIPC because they said, come forward, and you didn't come forward. And they said, oh, well, if you don't want to do that, we're not going to close this down because that's part of the many issues that were of concern. JCK, good morning.
Thulas, are you well?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Thulas, it's heartbreaking to see Senzo's mother crying on national TV. Does it ring a bell to you as a leader? No, man. Something is not legal with the justice system. Justice system has failed the Meniwa families. Has failed them peacefully. And it's 11 years. Up to now, no justice. Hence, we know that there are some people who have got the dark cloud concerning something waterfront. Yes, the best way to is why is the state prosecutor, John Baloyi, doesn't someone tell him long way to do a credit Kumalo? Why doesn't he exclude it? It tells you something is not elected in our justice system.
Yeah.
General Civil was there. He said he cleaned it for the secretary on the scene. How can Judge President Rambo, he knows something because he used to pull the rapper during the proceedings. Batoi, what is Batoi saying about this case? You understand? Something is not letter with this case. And the ad hoc committee members last week failed to believe General tell about the death of what? Of Senzo Maywa. Something is not letter. There are people in a high position who knows what happened. It's the time people. Something must be done. General Mkwanazi, what's happening to you? Help the Maywa family. Something is not letter with our justice system. That's my question now.
JCK, thank you for that, JCK. Let me just caution against making, insinuations and allegations where you and I don't have any proof of what we are saying. But I take the point you are making. The wheels of justice have really, if they say they grind slowly, no, 11 years now. And it doesn't seem like this case is going anywhere. It's going nowhere slowly, really, if you look at it quite carefully. Whether the Mayua family will get justice from this process is beginning to be questionable. I've got my own questions about just how it's proceeding, man. The length of time that it took for the state to conclude its case. We're now hearing the case of the defense. But in the end, the questions that JCK is asking about the other people that were in the house on the day, not being called in, not being charged, what on earth is going on? So valid questions without needing to cast aspersions in a manner that's a bit, irresponsible on our part.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's the one you need to know all about. It's the R21 leaving the airport en route towards Pretoria, so away from OR Tambo International up towards capital city. Roadworks that have gone in, I guess, overnight, catching everybody out this morning. It's a late start. SANRAL said these had started about 3 weeks ago, but they often sort of put them in a bit later than the proposed start date. But they're in a big way this morning. They are semi-permanent until around, permanent. In fact, nothing semi about it. Permanent roadworks until the end of February next year. So what you're sitting in this morning is in all likelihood just to keep repeating over and over again in the mornings and in the afternoons for the next few months. Got a crash in on Joburg's Grayston Drive at the Mike 1 highway, so expect some delays there. There looks like there may be an impact getting off the highway because it's quite busy northbound and southbound as well into that Grayston off-ramp. Roadworks on the N17 both ways between Boksburg and Brakpan slowing things up, and an earlier crash on the N12 near Atlas Road slowing traffic out of Benoni direction Boksburg this morning. The N1 through Midrand stays really heavy from the Brockfontein interchange all the way down to New Road. Absolutely jam-packed with Monday morning and post-payday traffic volumes in the mix there. The R75 south of Dispatch on your way to GQ. Rebecca has been, by the looks of things, reopened. It was closed earlier this morning with burning tyres in a protest, but it seems to be sorted out. The M13 coming from Hillcrest to Kloof down Fields Hill. There's a crash halfway down the hill a little bit earlier this morning. Traffic still very slow from around about Maytime Stores territory. Crash on the N2 south before Gateway. That's heavy if you're coming in from the airport. Big queues this morning through Sabaya all the way down to that Umhlanga exit into the crash. And if you take the M4, just a reminder coming out of the airport, there are some roadworks there between Umhloti and La Mercy that are reasonably long term as well. Cape Town, N2 inbound, Somerset West really busy this morning. Outbound not bad, inbound slow. And Marine Drive, chock-a-block from Bayside through to about the second lights at Sunset Beach territory. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
I don't love going to school. I don't love sitting in a classroom with 50 other children, but I do love learning. Ndiyakuthanda ukufunda isiXhosa as a language. I do love getting good grades. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
5 minutes to 8. In recent weeks, alarming incidents of bullying and violence have shaken schools in various parts of the country, raising concerns about learner safety and discipline within educational spaces. For example, the Gauteng Department of Education is now launching investigations and has pledged tougher safety measures following a series of violent episodes at schools in Boksburg and Pretoria. These incidents, including a shocking stabbing and multiple cases of bullying captured in videos that went viral, have sparked public outrage and renewed calls for accountability. Let's speak to Shahida Omar, who is Clinic Director at the Teddy Bear Foundation. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. I'm sure you've answered this question many a times, but it remains relevant, Shahida. Where do we look for the factors that contribute to the kind of violence that we are seeing in schools? Is there something in the schooling environment, especially at the high school levels, or is it largely to do with factors in the community?
I think we need to put on a systemic lens here. Schools are a microcosm of the children reflect and mirror what they think to. Unfortunately, so we find that children coming from backgrounds of adversity, adverse childhood experiences, whether it's culture of violence, domestic violence, abuse, uh, having a history of victimization, particular emotional abuse, in a single-headed household, lack of with a male life. So this is numerous at the same time we need schools from responsibility. Schools have a duty to ensure that learners feel safe and protected. Schools have a huge role to prevent and come to violence. And yes, children exposed to a lot of challenges in their lives. And what we know that children who act out are actually crying out for help. Those bullies, those children that are demonstrating violence, are displaying unmet emotional unresolved conflicts in their lives. So what we do, I think it's also and at first we identify these learners because these learners are clearly in need of help. And what can be done? First, we need to look at implement violence prevention measures. That's so it's happening in some schools. It's happening maybe not consistently. So conflict resolution education where learners are taught peaceful ways to handle disagreements and to bullying campaigns, regular workshops, peer-led programs, discourage aggression and promote respect. We find that children are more responsive to their own peers than to the official authorities. And again, life is presentation integration where we look at emotional intelligence, emotional resilience. I think these are things that we have to work with from the school environment. The communication needs to be extended, building partnerships with parents as well, bringing parents into the equation, and working with local leaders, NGOs, address violence, learners, providing counseling services within the school structure. The role of counselors is so important, but unfortunately, the role numbers are so high. The counselors that are accessible and available is disproportionate. It's actually impossible to have one social worker, one psychologist serving schools. So we are failing our learners.
All right, Shahida, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. And I really appreciate the insights that you are giving, also providing the possible solutions and pathways to finding solutions for the kind of violence that we are seeing in schooling communities in various parts of the country. That's Shahida Omar, Clinic Director at the Teddy Bear Foundation, talking to us about the phenomenon of bullying and violence in schools. And I actually witnessed one of these incidents in the Pretoria CBD about a week or 2 weeks ago, actually. And it was absolutely shocking. The number of pupils that were involved on the streets of Pretoria in the CBD. Just shocking. That sense of lack of appreciation of how quickly the situation can go south and turn really badly for them. I saw these children, these young people were fighting, and chasing each other across the street, and knives were being produced, and it's one of those phenomena that's really distressing in our society, because all it takes is just one little action that can change a young person's life forever, right? The line between murder, culpable homicide is razor thin, and you find yourself in prison for the rest of your life. Important conversation. Let's go to Ann Musa on standby with the news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, a new witness to testify at the Madlanga Commission and tensions in Cameroon following partial election results. Good morning. A police forensic ballistics expert is scheduled to testify at the Madlanga Commission this morning. The commission is continuing with public hearings, investigating allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Zara Groenewald reports.
The forensic expert is expected to provide evidence linked to the murder of Vereniging engineer Armin Swart, believed to be a case of mistaken identity. The Madlanga Commission will continue hearing from witnesses throughout the week.
Accused number one in the Senzumehiwa murder trial, Muzi Sibiya, is expected back on the witness stand at the High Court in Pretoria today. Yesterday marked 11 years since the Bafana Bafana captain was shot dead at the parental home of his then-girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo, in Vosloorus, east of Johannesburg. Sibiya is one of the 5 men on trial, has distanced himself from the 2014 contract killing alleged to have been ordered by the singer Kelly Khumalo. Palma Gubane reports.
On Friday, State Prosecutor George Baloyi went through a confession statement allegedly made by Sibiya following his arrest in May 2020, which alleges that Meyiwa's former girlfriend Kelly Khumalo hired hitmen to assassinate the father of one of her children. According to the statement, the Buthelezi brothers, Marco and Makimba, who are not part of the current accused, carried out the hit with Sibiya. However, Sibiya denies knowing about the statement.
6 people have died and 8 others sustained serious injuries following a crash between a minibus taxi and an SUV in Dullstroom near Belfast in Mpumalanga. The Provincial Safety, Security and Liaison Department says the cause of yesterday's crash is under investigation. The department spokesperson Mueti Musi says the driver of the minibus taxi sustained slight injuries.
A sports utility vehicle SUV and a minibus taxi collided in a side swap collision on Sunday afternoon. 6 of the deceased were all passengers in the minibus taxi. 8 people sustained serious injuries, and they include 7 passengers in the minibus taxi and the driver of the SUV.
The City of Johannesburg, together with Johannesburg Water and City Power, have embarked on a Level 3 disconnection drive. The drive will target chronic, non-paying, high-consumption customers with long-standing, unpaid and undisputed municipal debt. The drive is part of Project Lukisa, an initiative led by the Environmental and Infrastructure Service Department MMC and the Finance MMC. The targeted customers collectively owe the Metro in excess of over 80 million rand. Joburg Water spokesperson Nombuso Shabalala.
The customers collectively owe in excess of 84 million rand to the City of Johannesburg. Some of these customers have not paid their accounts in over a year. Through this initiative, the city is intensifying revenue recovery efforts to protect service delivery, uphold financial accountability, and ensure fairness to paying customers. This initiative will continue throughout November.
The UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, has called for legal action against any South African who has left the country to fight alongside the Israeli Defence Force. She was addressing an audience at the Grote Kerk in Cape Town yesterday. The gathering followed the annual Nelson Mandela lecture she delivered on Saturday. Albanese says any returning South African who fought with the IDF should be treated as a suspect and subsequently convicted by government for joining Israel's ongoing war on Palestine.
And the other thing is that, have you had the nationals who have been fighting in the Israeli army? Okay, so what happens? What happens when they come back? They need to be considered suspect. So the police needs to investigate them. If there is evidence that they have committed crimes, they have to be prosecuted. And if the judges conclude that they have committed crimes, they have to be convicted.
And finally, protests have flared in several cities across Cameroon following partial election results indicating 92-year-old President Paul Biya is on course to secure another term in office. The demonstrations come ahead of the official release of election results today, according to local media reports. Opposition leaders say authorities have detained around 30 politicians and activists in connection with the unrest. The government has rejected accusations of irregularities and is urging citizens to remain calm and wait for the final results. President Biya, who has ruled Cameroon since 1982, is currently the world's oldest serving head of state. If confirmed, another 7-year term would keep him in power until nearly 100 years old. Recapping the top story, a police forensic ballistics expert is scheduled to testify at the Matlanga Commission this morning. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes waiting for the microwave to beep. Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For his 2024 Suzuki Jimny, 55-year-old Stefan now pays only 611 Rand a month. And for her 2024 Kia Sonet, 31-year-old Palisa pays just 926 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Rugby, the Stormers, the Lions, the Sharks, they end the URC phase strong ahead of the break. And South African clubs are flying the flag high on the continent this weekend. Kaizer Chiefs making history. And we also bring you all this and more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Joburg Airport, OR Tambo to Pretoria, capital city. Roadworks in from this morning. R21 North at Olifantsfontein Road at Clayville. Very heavy backlogs all the way down to the R25 Tembisa exit. They're reasonably long term. It is day one of many days that you'll be driving into delays on that R21 North at this time of morning and possibly in the afternoon as well. Crash on Grayston Drive at the Mike 1 Highway. Heavy coming through from Wynberg and some problems getting off the highway. Mike 1 North and South at the Grayston off-ramp as well. The N12 from Benoni through Boksburg stays heavy. The N17 both ways queuing between Boksburg and Brakpan through the roadworks. And the M1 South fairly heavy today coming through from Brakfontein towards New Road. If you're driving in from the airport at Durban towards Durban, King Shaka International, the N2 southbound, very heavy backlogs just after the airport. Long queues down in towards a crash scene by Mshlanga. There's roadworks if you're bypassing that on the M4 between La Mercy and Mshlodi as well. The M13 from around about Maytime Stores through Kloof Fields Hill still being held up by an earlier crash scene there as well. And Cape Town, fairly heavy. Marine Drive, Table View through Sunset Beach. The N1 inbounds heavy from Plattercliff to City Centre. And if you're driving in from the airport at Cape Town, you'll hit the N2 queues from Langa, Bunga Avenue through to Hospital Bends. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 10 minutes after 8. Welcome to it, the third hour of the morning brief here on SAFM on this Monday. Maklaba Ekapa says she thoroughly enjoyed says, nice touch there, Tulas, with Sankomota. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's thanks to the instigator, Hurricane Zalma, in studio. Always getting me up to mischief. Yeah, we built up from our name. We were waiting for our name to be called out of the list, the register, not of the masters, but the register of the grey listed. And eventually we were called out of that list. So that's how that came about a bit earlier on. Now, someone else here, Brian Mabaye here, talks about on the issue of foreigners who are not documented or documented. If we don't know how to control our borders or immigration laws, we may find ourselves under siege if one day they mobilize themselves against certain activist groups such as Operation Dudula and propaganda on foreigners around the city of Joburg, says Brian Mabaye from Protea Glen. And then someone else, Zuki in Lady Frere, wants to weigh in on this whole issue around state capture and says, not state capture, but Ms. Madonsela, I take it the former public protector, said South Africa is in a state of capture, meaning South Africa is in a situation of being captured. And Zuki then says one could interpret that as saying by Dubai, being captured by Dubai, implying South Africa is governed from Dubai or by Dubai. I'm not sure I follow that, but then Zuki then goes on to say, your omission, meaning my omission in defining, is that some ministers were appointed by the Guptas who claimed to be able to influence the ex president Zuma's decisions on who to appoint to a ministerial position. This was proved by the offer to ex Deputy Minister Mcebisi Jonas in his testimony at the Zondo Commission. Thank you for that, Zuki. I think that's one of the elements that we were talking to, the ability to appoint the people you want, moving the chess pieces in a way, leaving nothing to chance. Making sure that the guy who prosecutes is my guy, the guy who arrests is my guy, the guy who's going to make the ultimate decision, my guy, and that really is the elements that came through during the State Capture Commission of Inquiry as far as the definition goes. And then someone else here says, I agree that there are huge problems with a president that hides hundreds of thousands in their sofa. I think that the difference between Zuma and now is that in Zuma's time, nobody was whistleblowing like now, says that person, not signing off in terms of their name. And so on it goes. Do keep those coming. The number to dial is 086 000 2032 or send me your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it then. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, the next conversation is brought to you and sponsored by the Limpopo Provincial Government. It has to do with the Limpopo Investment Conference, which is scheduled for the 30th and the 31st of October. And it builds on the South African Investment Conference that has been hosted over the years by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The province says it draws strength and encouragement from the significant number of businesses that showed interest in investing in South Africa despite the global economic challenges hampering the economic growth across the world. Let's speak to Chitereke Matibe, the member of the Executive Council, MEC, in Limpopo for the Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism. Good morning to you, MEC, and thank you for your time. For the benefit of our listeners, could you start by explaining what the Limpopo Investment Conference is all about?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe, and good morning to you as well, and good morning to our listeners. Yes, indeed, the investment conference, we regard it as a platform where government, investors, as well as development partners together to explore and unlock the potential that our province provides. It's an initiative that the provincial government started uh, 5 years ago, which we are continuing with the seventh edition. And when we look at it, we look at it as Limpopo as one of our provinces, South Africa, which is the gateway to Africa, and it's an area that with natural resources, it has climate, it's a climate province. which provides a lot of potential for investors, foreign as well as local investors.
So, what are the key objectives that you are hoping to achieve through this year's conference?
Well, in line with our Limpopo development plan, we have set ourselves targets in terms of reducing unemployment as well as providing to the national target that we think we can be able to achieve. Plus, our unemployment is not acceptable, and our target province through our Limpopo development plan to reduce the unemployment from more than 10 to an acceptable norm around 20% our five plan. We also target that now our growth, our contribution to national get for we our target is that 5 to the to more than 2.2%. So main objective is that we should be able to attract investment that comes to our province and that should be able to address all those challenges that we face in the province.
So, in doing all of that work, MEC, are there sectors that you are prioritizing for investment this year, so such that you drive the conversation towards those sectors?
Well, our province is enriched with a lot of natural resources. We have a beautiful landscape, which then speaks to piece of tourism. And if we are able to drive tourism, one of the sectors we should look to attract investment, foreign as well as local. We are blessed that the province has the land that is suitable for agriculture, and agriculture is one of our key sectors that we think if we are to improve on it, the investment beneficial products that we use in agriculture, we should be able also to look to reducing and increasing our contribution to the GDP. We also have mining. Mining, we pride ourselves in the province. We have got PGM in the province and different critical minerals that are needed for the economy currently. Those are the sectors we should be able to drive our economy.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. I've got to thank you for your time. Chitereke Matibe is the member of the Executive Council, MEC, for the Limpopo Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism. And that conversation was brought to you and sponsored by the Limpopo Provincial Government.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement.
You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter, geared for you.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Some news that has to do with these structural reforms that we've been talking about in the various sectors and entities that can help our economy begin to get on a growth path. Transnet has marked a significant milestone in its modernization and efficiency drive with the launch of 4 new ship-to-shore cranes that are valued at 967 million rand, and that is at the Durban Container Terminal, that is Pier 2 of that terminal. The investment underscores Transnet's ongoing commitment, they tell us, to enhance the country's port infrastructure, improving cargo handling performance, and strengthening the country's position in global trade. Don't hear it from me, hear it from Jabu Mdaki, who is the Chief Executive of Transnet Port Terminals. Mr. Mdaki, good morning and thank you for your time. How important is this investment? 967 million rand, and it's at Pier 2. What will it enable Transnet port operations to do that has been sort of hindered for the last while?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to the listener. This is an important milestone with Transnet terminal. All the things that we are taking out of our operation or that we are decommissioning, in operation for 20 years. These new things that we enjoy, the improve the productivity that will allow us to turn around much more. As you probably know, yet is the biggest terminal that we have in Africa terminal. So it is quite important to the economy.
And just put it in context, what was the difficulty? I remember the year when Transnet had its difficulties highlighted, especially around port operations. To what extent did those problems we witnessed in that year, I can't remember if it was 2022 or thereabouts, to what extent did the age and the state of the cranes account for the difficulties we experienced in those years that had a ripple effect all the way to economic growth in our country that year?
No, thank you very much. So the year that we had the in our 20, after a huge towards in November, October this year, and waiting for the huge African business sector that were being experienced. We have since cleared the block, and we are now in the better windows on. So, and the impact of the old equipment was huge in reducing delays that we're experiencing. Also, we did not have a sufficient number of raw materials. This equipment that we use on the land side to move the containers from the yard to the containers or to the truck that they take these containers. We're experiencing a breakdown in England. This is going to change as well. It's not only stabilizing the situation with the network, but we are taking what we also see as performance with regard. I mean, initially we were expecting in November to December in age is pretty much the hour, but we will 20% increase in the terminal as far as GPH. So it is a good relief. We are not focus and saying we are going to be optimizing the performance. It start challenging the global norm in terms of performance.
I imagine then, Mr. Mtaki, that at the same time, it also helps that the other aspect that was a bit of a point of uncertainty has now been cleared. This court challenge that had been brought by Maersk APM terminals against your choice of an equity partner, that has fallen flat before the KwaZulu-Natal division of the High Court. I imagine you welcome that development. What does it enable you to do in moving forward, especially around the operations of Pier 2?
It is an important step because it brings a certainty in terms of we and but I think it's also important this industry. Throughout that period, the PPT or consultation has been invested the equipment and the modernization when we launched earlier this year, about 20 new standard areas that signal in the that has been cleared by the court to allow the PS2 to continue on that modernization. It's because we in terms of as well.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Jabu Mtaki, who is the Chief Executive of Transnet Port Terminals.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Let's get into it. So we've got rugby where 3 South African rugby unions entered the mid-season break from the United Rugby Championship with renewed hope. The Stormers continuing to lead after their 36-16 win away in Treviso. Lions, they had a try-filled 49-31 victory over Ulster to lift them into 8th place, and the Sharks celebrating their first win of the season in a bonus point 29-19 result at home, while the Bulls, they endured a narrow loss to Glasgow. Soccer, the South African clubs that are flying high over the weekend in the continent, with Kaizer Chiefs making history, reaching the CAF Confed Cup group stages for the very first time after a 3-1 victory over AS Simba at Dobsonville. Stellenbosch FC kept the Cape buzzing, hammering 15 de Agosto 4-1 at Athlone, while Mamelodi Sundowns underlined their dominance, completing a 7-1 aggregate rout of Nigeria's Remo Stars to secure a CAF Champions League spot. Now, Golden Arrows booked their spot in the Carling Knockout Cup semi-finals with a 2-1 victory over TS Galaxy at the King Zwelithini Stadium. And Zambia, they have become the first nation to qualify for the 2026 CAF Africa Women's Cup of Nations, sealing a 7-2 aggregate win over Namibia. On to cricket, Pakistan coach Mike Hesson has thrown his support behind Babar Azam's return to the T20 squad as the 3-match series against South Africa starts in Rawalpindi tomorrow. Azam has been recalled for the first time since December last year, having previously been dropped, and that was due to concerns over his strike rate in the format. Australia's captain Pat Cummins will miss the Ashes series opener against England next month due to not being fit in time. Former skipper Steve Smith will lead Australia in Cummins' absence when the biggest test series on the 2025 calendar starts on the 21st of November in Perth. And finally, Formula One, Lando Norris moved to the top of the standings in the fight for Formula One's championship after victory at the Mexico Grand Prix on Sunday. Verstappen finishing third with a late virtual safety car, preventing the Red Bull driver for passing Charles Leclerc, who finished second. Here's Norris.
The last few have been decent. This has easily been my best performance. But still a long way to go. So I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. Keep trying to be consistent against some very quick guys around me, and I think that'll be good. But doesn't mean because I'm ahead or behind or whatever that I have to drive or do anything differently. So just keep doing what I'm doing.
And that's your sport. We'll be back in the fast lane here on SAFM with John Hedeka around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, education activist Hendrik Makaneta says he firmly supports the publication of matric results. He believes matriculants should be allowed to celebrate their achievements with their parents. Two suspects are expected to appear in the Mzumbe Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal today in connection with the killing of a 64-year-old woman. And a police forensic ballistics expert is scheduled to testify at the Madlanga Commission this morning. The Commission is continuing with public hearings investigating allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
This traffic report is brought to you by Auto and General Business Insurance. Auto and General, never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, a reminder the R21 roadworks at Olifantsfontein Road and the Clayville part of Gauteng are in. It's a very heavy backlog from Bobsfontein Road, making your way past Tembisa into that. They are long-term works as well. Sanrail scheduling an end date of about the end of February 2026. So it's the first morning of many, many mornings that you're going to be sitting on that R21. Heavy traffic on the Micah 1 around Stanton this morning. It's a crash on Greyston Drive, which happened a while ago, and that's causing a delay coming out of Wynberg, but it's also just holding up traffic coming off the highway. Southbound from Buccleuch is heavy, and northbound from Parktown under quite a bit of pressure. If you're heading to Stanton, might want to hop onto some alternative routes rather than sit on the highway at this stage. And a busy Monday means the M1 South from Old Joburg down to New Road stays busy as well. Durban easing up after a reasonably busy morning. The crash on Fields Hill is out of the way. The crash at Umhlanga on the N2 coming south, that is also being cleared up. There is a crash now on the N2 north before Umgena Road, so that traffic coming through from the M7 stays pretty heavily backed up on the run through Spaghetti Junction territory. Cape Town's N1 from Plattercliff Hill through to around Woodstock looking fairly slow. A lot of pressure around Jan Smut Drive at Klipfontein Road causing delays through Athlone, and the M3 from around about the top of Wynberg Hill slow all the way through to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
That traffic report was brought to you by Auto and General Business Insurance. Auto and General, never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
At Auto and General, we understand your business is built on more than just vehicles. It's your stock, tools and equipment, and the premises where you work. Auto and General Business Insurance is designed for businesses like yours, protecting your assets against fire, theft, storms, and other unexpected events. To protect your livelihood, visit autogen.co.za and get an obligation-free business insurance quote. Auto and General, never not there. Auto and General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn once again to Ndauling Lechela for another update this morning. Ndauling, let's start with companies going private. Tell me about the big names, including Adcock, Ingram, and MultiChoice that are set to delist before the end of this year.
That's right, Sula. So big names, as you mentioned, set to leave the JSE for the end of the year. But analysts say this is anything to worry about, adding that they don't signal a crisis. Instead, they reflect strategic in ownership and global consolidation. Pharmaceutical group, as you mentioned, Adcock Ingram, will delist on the 11th of November after shareholders approved India's Natco Pharma's offer. Bidvest will remain a key shareholder alongside Natco, giving Adcock access to global research networks while keeping its local manufacturing base. MultiChoice will follow in December after French media group Canal Plus crossed the 90% ownership threshold, triggering a mandatory buyout. Company's delisting will be effective from the 10th of December. Once private, MultiChoice will become part of Canal Plus's international media empire, though a secondary inward listing is planned to keep local investors connected to the enlarged group. While the departures of long-standing names are notable, they don't point to a shrinking market. JSE's listings pipeline remains active, with new entrants balancing exit. ASP Isotopes recently completed a secondary listing. AI-driven fintech Obstacia is preparing an IPO that could raise up to 6.3 billion rands.
So they may have the word gold in their name, but Harmony are now showing that actually they're looking to grow beyond that particular precious metal. Tell me about this acquisition. It's called, is it
Yes.
Mac Copper? Is it?
Yes, it's Mac Copper. So the miner is cashing in on record gold prices to bankroll its long-awaited push into copper, marking a decisive step in the evolution beyond gold. Now, flush with cash from that gold run, the miner has sealed $1 billion deal for Australia's Mac Copper mine. First acquisition to immediately add copper output to its portfolio. Move signals CEO Bears now follow through on a strategy first outlined by his predecessor Peter Steenkamp 5 years ago to reposition Harmony as a multi-commodity player ready for the energy transition. While the Mac takeover comes at a good time, copper prices have surged more than 17% this year amid tight supply and strong demand linked to EVs, renewables, and AI infrastructure. Harmony's earlier forays into copper, including the Eva project in Queensland and the Wafi Goldport joint venture in Papua New Guinea, have been hampered by delays and political feedback. The Mac acquisition immediately delivers scale and cash flow, adding roughly 40,000 tons of annual copper production. By expanding offshore, Harmony not only cushions itself against local gold depletion, but also taps into the global shift toward green metals. Group CEO Bears now said integrating this mine into Harmony's system will unlock opportunities and boost long-term value.
All right, round up everything for me. Round off, not round up. We're not arresting here. Round off everything you've told me this morning, Dowling, and set the scene for us on the kind of trading day we can expect today.
Firstly, is that Zelma giggling?
It's Zelma. It's always Zelma. Do you even need to ask Maran Dowling? Just assume. Listen, there's a rebuttable presumption that it's Zelma until it's proven otherwise. It's Zelma. Yes.
All right, let's look at those markets. Local markets likely to recover today following international moves and SA being removed from the grey list that likely to boost sentiment, but those gains will likely be kept by slightly lower prices. In terms of company news, traders will be making two results from Pick n Pay. Then over in currency markets, the rand making gains at 17.19 back. Oil also trading in the green, up 0.6% at over $66 per barrel. Back to equities, big tech earnings and the Fed meeting under the spotlight as we await all the news. The US futures are in positive territory. Sentiment also upbeat in Asia, with traders looking ahead to the meeting between Japan's Prime Minister Tai Chi and President Trump, while also digesting a positive Chinese economic data.
All right, thank you for that, Dowling. Why do you think I call a hurricane Zelma? Dowling Lechela has been watching economics, business, and the markets throughout the show this morning.
Imagine if you could save time like you save money. A second here, a minute there. Type a little faster, walk a little faster. Or you could stop scrolling on the internet. Just think of all the hours you'll save. Now, what if you could take all that time and invest it? Watch it grow. Until eventually, one day, you'd have so much time that you wouldn't know what to do with it all. But unfortunately, time doesn't work like that. It can't be stored or banked. And unlike money, you can't make it back. That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do whatever you want to do, even if it is scrolling on the internet. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that. Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because guess
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks. Exclusively on the Vodafone app. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Straight to your calls. Let me go to Slee in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Slee.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the listeners. I hope you guys are well.
With good. Please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Thulasizwe, I just want to speak about something,
Yes.
right? Milton High, from my experience, is one of those schools that are sort of implemented in Togo. The children were well behaved, you saw nothing. But unfortunately, it does seem that two worlds exist. Now, this is where the problem that I see from Milton High. The principal rate is really started this year, so which tells us the problems have been there the years before. What I would have appreciated was the school coming out and saying, we know the intent and we are dealing with it, right? But they chose to hide. This is now the problem. The narrative that is coming out there, attacking the victim. Plus, we were in this country, the parent cannot beat their child. It's illegal.
Yeah.
Teacher can beat their child. It is illegal, right? For anyone to even say there are two sides to the story, where would the truth come from when parents beat their children? When the teachers can't beat their children? There is no justification, none, that can ever exist
Zero.
for why those children did up that child. To even suggest that the child would, he was also a bully, that can be what about it. You are hearing these conversations from adults, from people that are also very similar to you, trying to justify this. Milton Primary School, they both have the right of attacking the victim and attacking the parent whenever situations like this arise. Take that record on the news. Thank you, Thulasizwe.
All right. Thank you for that, Slee. Thank you for making those points quite strongly there from Slee in Cape Town. And that to the point about justification, any kind of, I don't know, warped justification that could be directed at the child that was in the center of that. The only time you as a private citizen can resort to use of violence is in private defense. If you're defending yourself and there's an attack that's underway, can you really tell me that that boy was attacking those boys in that situation? I don't know what happened before, but from what we've seen, is it plausible that he was attacking them and they decided, we're going to turn the tables on you? One against how many? Was it what, 7, 6? Wow, he would have needed to be, I don't know, extraordinarily. So the point that Slee is making about justification of that kind of violence, I think is well made. Arthur in Pongolo, good morning.
Good morning, Thulasizwe.
Good morning. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So it's so controversial. To people remember when we were downgraded, why did the company Macavio and it was was the selling so much and now we are again great
yes.
We have the hospital in and also
yes.
We have something that also what is it that is making this out of it when the million
Arthur, let me ask you this. In your reading, and I don't believe you've got your own view, and I want to hear it. Do you believe that systems and agencies that are meant to deal with all of these issues you just raised are now stronger than they were, say, 8, 9 years ago? So, your SIUs, your NPA investigative directorate, your I don't know, DPCI, the Hawks, and the likes. Do you believe they are stronger today than they were? Financial Intelligence Center, all of those, do you believe that as an ecosystem? Yes, we continue to have problems and cases, but as an ecosystem, do you believe them to be on a stronger footing? Because I don't believe they were looking at incidents. They were looking at the systems in place to curb serious economic offenses, terrorism financing, and the likes.
Okay, the word strong sometimes has been used in the wrong sense, and I submit because of one reason. To be strong is that the people who have performed the good have been made it's designed operating the system. We depend on when you look at those what get it, how the business can can finally. Let's take it as a so me to answer the question. The minister who was then this time
Yeah.
everything was interesting. When he had for the
Mhm.
our right now, there is no will. Everybody, if it it don't have come and they are
Okay. Arthur,
and
thank you.
capture them.
All right. Thank you for that, Arthur. Of course, and as far as investigative journalism is concerned, I can tell you now there'll be journalists who will come through and say, how did you find out about Tembisa Hospital? How did you find out about the goings on at, what's that entity? IDT. So, yeah, there are weaknesses, of course, but a lot of the questions you're asking, and the role of journalists, for instance, in exposing some of the shenanigans of the last few years. I believe that if you were to call, one of the leading investigative entities in this country, as far as journalism is concerned, they will give you a litany of scandals that would not have seen the light of day, but for the interventions of investigative journalists.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, just an update on that R21 and an alert, really, to start thinking about alternative routes. Roadworks have gone in to fix that long-term sinkhole, R21 north at Olifantsfontein. Traffic's all the way back. It's very heavy this morning, first morning that motorists are driving in. So very little warning, no warning, in fact, about this. It's about 3 weeks starting later than its original planned start date. So it was always going to be a lottery. But this morning, that lottery ticket has come up. So R21 heavy from the R25 all the way up to Clayville. The works are scheduled to stay in place until about the end of February next year. So make sure you got sort of plenty of time to get through that. Otherwise, you're just staying away and looking at alternative routes. It is long term. The N1 South, a crash now before Allendale. Very heavy coming down from the old Joburg Road exit. So that runs through Midrand towards Joburg, really under some pressure. N3 North is queuing heavily up into Buccleuch. The roadworks continue there. The N17 still very slow for this time of morning. Single lane sections just past Rondebolt Road coming from Brakpan on your way to Joburg. Durban side, the N2 running north for this time of morning, still busy, jamming through Spaghetti Junction all the way to a crash just before Umgeni Road. And Cape Town's N1 inbound, also a route that's under a lot of pressure this morning. It's been a crash just by the lower Church Street exit. That's the Woodstock exit. The left lane towards town is closed. Traffic parked all the way back through to Plattercliff Marine Drive. Coming through Pardon Island to get into that N1, you're basically struggling because you're driving straight in basically to that crash scene. N2 inbound, heavy towards Lisbech Parkway. Looks like something's happened there. And the M3 that was closed since last Thursday, it's opened up on the inbound, but it is slow. That's Philip Cassano going through that open section down towards Roland Street, very slow. The outbound side from Roland to Hospital Bend remains closed until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Design meets downtime on My Design Rules this Monday evening at 7 on S3. This week, our duos are challenged to create a family space for relaxing and connecting. Expect bold ideas, creative risks, and design drama along the way. Whose design will make the judges feel right at home, and whose will leave them out in the cold? Open up your everyday to the extraordinary with My Design Rules. Monday evenings at 7, repeat Saturdays at 2, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, 9 minutes to 9. Let's return to this story that we've been peeling at a couple of times in the last few days. Across the country, a silent epidemic is growing among teenagers: gambling. From flashy TikTok clips to football jerseys and esports streams, gambling has quietly become part of youth culture. What once was a niche market activity for punters, many of them stereotypically middle aged, is now disguised as entertainment, drawing in young people who often don't realize they are betting until it's too late. Let's talk to Claire Hackrath, who is managing director of InfoQuest, to just give us some insights into that. InfoQuest, of course, does a lot of work in terms of research into various addictions, including gambling. Good morning to you, Claire, and thank you for your time. I describe this as a silent epidemic. Am I correct in that description from the work that you have done?
Good morning to you and your listeners. Yes, you are correct. We've done quite a lot of research on youth gambling in the last 2 years, and it's definitely taking a stronger grip on our youth market. And we have seen also from the research that because kids are on social media, these video platforms use sophisticated algorithms to curate content for younger users based on their online behavior. So they are a huge target.
So the presence of young people on social media and digital spaces, a lot of the activity happens in the digital spaces. Is that what you believe to be the driver of the growth in youth gambling?
Definitely, because they are mostly online, and because betting has now also become an online space, they are targeted, and we see a great uptick in youth getting involved in gambling. And the thing is that they don't see it as gambling, as you correctly said earlier. They see it as gaming. They consider it to be gaming and entertainment. So it's not a gambling exercise. But there are more and more sort of like details that when we delve deeper into the that shows that they are becoming addicted to it as well, which is a problem.
Which forms of gambling are predominant among young people? And I know that one of the studies you did, you surveyed about 300 gamblers, 139 of them being younger gamblers between the ages of 18 and 34. I was saying earlier on that gambling used to be a niche market activity, your stereotypical middle-aged man who would bet on horses and buy the Citizen newspaper and try and follow what has happened. How does it look in terms of the younger market? Which activities dominate in particular?
Yeah, it's interesting because the older market still, as you say, go for the horse betting and more traditional types of gambling. The youth market is into online gaming, which is the main 77% of youth are into online gaming. And then sports betting actually is the next highest activity, and playing the lottery. So it's quite interesting to see that online gaming and sports betting are the top two.
Yeah. And you also observed another phenomenon of repeat gambling. So you earn some winnings and then you gamble again. What does that talk to?
Yeah, I think they see it as from what we've seen. They are excited by the risk. Our youth market enjoy risky undertakings, and gambling is a risk. And when they do happen to win, it just encourages them to play more. And the problem is that it's not an ongoing win. So mostly they end up losing. And it's usually borrowed money or pocket money or for the older gamblers who are working, there can be debt implications as well.
Lastly, Claire, what are the implications for policy interventions that we've been debating quite a fair amount around this issue? What needs to be happening in the policy intervention space such that responsible gambling can happen, but harmful gambling is minimized and curbed altogether?
Yeah, I think the advertising of gambling and gaming is a big problem because it lures younger people right in, and as you also said, before they know it, they have become involved in gambling activities, and then it's very difficult to get out of it. So I would say that advertising needs to be regulated, and also specifically when it comes to youth gambling, it is ensure that there aren't underage people gambling, because how do you know who's on the other end of when you're on an online site?
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. Claire Hackworth is Managing Director of InfoQuest.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take as many of your voice notes as possible on a plethora of issues that we have raised this morning. Quite a lot to wade through, so let's go.
Good morning, Thulas. Thulas, does it not surprise you that even today people are still demanding the explanation as to what does state capture mean? I mean, these are the people who are still in denial, and these are the people who actually benefited from state capture during Zuma's time. So they feel very much offended when you talk about state capture. Thank you.
Good morning, Tulas and SAFM listener. Tulas, there is this thing. Once the Jacob Zuma's name is mentioned, Ramaphosa's name comes. What is actually happening? Is it just a hatred between the two and the supporters of former president? Because Tulas, it has been going on for years and years and years.
Lucy, thank you for that. Just very quickly, I think the juxtaposition is only natural given the circumstances within the ANC itself of the demise of former President Jacob Zuma and his resignation, and the rise of the current president, President Cyril Ramaphosa. I would call it polarization more than anything else. It's just polarized. We are largely polarized as a society beyond the ANC. Yeah, we live in an age where your truth is not my truth. And we've got to push back against that so that we disagree on how we interpret and internalize those truths. But the truth is the truth, and the objective facts are the objective. In fact, let me say the objective facts are the objective facts. But I'm not surprised about it all. The polarization, we are largely polarized, not only in South Africa, but it's a phenomenon that is mirrored in many parts of the world.
Good morning to us. For South Africa being taken out of the grey list, it means a lot for us. It's like a match ending up in a draw, then the winner wins it on penalties. That's my take. Eastern Duda from Western Cape. Thank you.
Winning on penalties, you say, yeah? Okay, let's see. Yeah, let's see. Maybe this relates to this particular voice note. Maybe, I don't know.
Good morning, SFM and the listener. Now that Orlando Pirates is out of the CAF tournament, I think it's an opportunity for their supporters to show that they are mature enough and support the remaining three teams from South Africa, because those teams are representing the country. Thank you very much. Stephen Matimela from Zimbabwe.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. Maturity, yes, including Kaizer Chiefs, Zelma. Including Kaizer Chiefs. When they're out there, they can come back and we can fight when they're here. But when you're playing outside there, you have our full support. Thank you for listening and for your robust engagement as always. Stand by. The Talking Point with Kethi Mutlatlana is up next here on SAFM, coming up after the news at 9 a.m. with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, education activist speaks ahead of AfriForum's court case and a new witness to testify at the Madlanga Commission. Good morning. Education activist Hendrik Makaneta says he firmly supports the publication of matric results. Makaneta believes matriculants should be allowed to celebrate their achievements with their parents. He added that through transparency, the community can hold the system accountable. His comments come ahead of AfriForum's court case on the publication of matric results in newspapers and online platforms. The case will be heard in the High Court in Pretoria today and tomorrow. The lobby group is in favor of the publication of results. Makaneta explains.
While at the same time it ensures that performance data remains accessible to all South Africans. Any attempt to suppress this information undermines both the public oversight and the recognition that the learners deserve for the many years of hard work. Open access to results is not just a tradition, it is a vital part of an accountable education system.
Meanwhile, AfriForum's head of cultural affairs, Alana Bailey, believes they have a strong case to argue before the court.
Case will be heard about the merit of the publication of matric results, where only the numbers of the matriculants are used. In other words, their names won't be published, but still the information regulator feels that this is an infringement of their privacy. The Department of Basic Education, as well as parties including AfriForum, will oppose this, and we will hear arguments on the merit of such public publication.
A police forensic ballistics expert is scheduled to testify at the Madlanga Commission this morning. The commission is continuing with public hearings investigating allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Zara Groenewald reports.
The forensic expert is expected to provide evidence linked to the murder of Vereniging engineer Armin Swart, believed to be a case of mistaken identity. The Madlanga Commission will continue hearing from witnesses throughout the week.
The Passenger Rail Agency process says the invite from the Transport Department to the private sector to partner in the country's rail revitalization is a major milestone. Process CEO Hisham Imran says there has been a remarkable turnaround characterized by the recovery of 35 out of 40 corridors. Imran was speaking yesterday